Hey, what is up everybody? This is Trev the Dev, and today I'm going to be teaching you guys how to create a basic Unity project. So as you can see here, we have the Unity startup menu, and yours won't have all these different games on them and such. It'll just be completely blank. But yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and really quickly enable capture cursor. There we go. Okay, so you're going to go ahead and go up here and click new, and you can just call this whatever you want. I'm just going to call it tutorial 1 YouTube, and make sure that this is 3D. I'm not going to be going over 2D this time, so make sure that you click on 3D. And so yeah, this is, you can change the location if you want. You can choose, you can change it to projects or workspace or whatever you want. So anyway, let's just go ahead and click create. Sorry if the screen gets a little bit glitchy here, and yeah, it's getting glitchy. I just disable that for now. Eventually, there we go. Unity should load up. Should look something like this. Okay, so the first thing we're going to go over is kind of how to import assets. Now, unfortunately, you're not going to be able to see me do this. Actually, hold on. Let me make it to where you can. Display capture, Windows capture. There we go. Okay, so there's these panels up here. We have import package, import new asset, export. We have things like saving, editing the project, creating game objects, components, changing and adding windows, and help. So I'm actually going to go ahead and set the layout to the default layout. This is what it looks like for you guys, or it should look like this. I don't know if the asset store will be there though. Anyways, so in this menu, you can go ahead and create things like game objects. You can create like a cube as shown there, and you can click delete to delete that. Control Z to undo. Or you could just right click it right there and click delete, or you could right click, wait no, you can't right click there, never mind. Anyway, so I'm going to be going over how to, start off a basic game in Unity. So if we go up here to assets, if we click import package and we go down to characters, we can just click on that and it should have this preparing package button. And once we click on that, as you can see here, we have this wonderful selection of assets. So I'm going to be keeping all of these selected. You can unselect and select whichever ones you want, but I'm just going to have all of them selected. And be sure not to disable any scripts or anything like that. Probably just audio, the guidelines, something like that, although all of it's mainly important. So anyway, let's just go ahead and import this. It shouldn't take too long. It really just depends on your hardware and things like that. I actually have a really nice PC, so it's going to go fairly smoothly. Although I've been having a few problems with my PC lately, I'm going to need to check it out and see if I could get it fixed. But, for now, my PC is working almost just fine. I think it could just be too much cache in the system, and I need to clear it. Anyways, so now you may notice we have this folder here that wasn't here before. So we can go ahead and double click it and it should open it up. Now we're going to notice something called characters, cross-platform, editor, physics materials, and utility. So what I usually do is I go into characters, and now we have first person, rollerball, or third person. I go to first person, we have the audio, so we can actually listen to these little audio clips. You guys can't hear it though because I have my sound muted. And we have prefabs. Prefabs are essentially just the game object that you want. Except it's hard to explain, but the game object you create and you store it into your asset, it becomes a prefab. It's a pre-created game object, so you can just drag it in and it'll automatically have all its properties. But anyways, now we have this camera here, and we don't want it there. If we go ahead and click on this game view up here, as you can see, it's rendering from that camera. We don't want that camera there, so we can click delete, or yet again we can just go over and right click and click delete shown there. So now, before I add in the first person controller, I'm going to go ahead and create, we go up here to game object, 3D object, plane. Now you may notice in the transform rect that it's a little bit off. You can either fix this by doing 0, 0, 0, or you can just go here, click reset position, or just reset. So now that that's in the proper positioning, we're going to go ahead and go up here, and right now we have the transform tool selected. We can go to the rotation tool, which allows us to rotate it, the scaling tool, which allows us to scale it, and the UI tool, which allows us to kind of, you know, change it, its position and its scale at the same time, so we can do things like that. And then we have the movement, or we could just click the middle button to do that. Middle mouse button, but if you're on laptop, that's kind of important. Or you could just click Control Alt left click to pan around as well. So anyways, we have this plane here. It's not really large enough to hold our character and have enough environmental space, so we're going to use the scaling rect, scaling tool, and we're going to click in the middle, and we're just going to pull that up. So as you can see, it's getting bigger and bigger, so I believe that should be fine. Now we have this first person controller right here that we want in the game. So we're just going to drag it in. We're going to lift it up above the ground, because if it's under the ground it will fall through the world. And now, as you can see, it's from there. So we're going to go ahead and go up here and click maximize on play to make sure that it is, it's maximizing whenever you click play. So now, as you can see, we have our game and we can walk around and there's audio. This is very, very important for the basics of creating a game. Now Unity also has a third-person, pre-built third-person controller, although it's very, very strange and weird, and I don't like how they did it. It's a lot different than just the standard third-person controller, so, you know, that will be shown off in a future video, possibly. So anyways, yeah, now we can run around our world, however there's not any hills. So to create hills, we're actually going to delete this plane that we added. And before we go ahead and add the hills and anything, I'm going to go ahead and show you guys how to disable automatic pre-computing lighting. So if we go up here to window and we go down to lighting, it would open up a panel like this, and you can just disable auto and then just click X. So now it doesn't automatically create, it doesn't automatically bake the lighting. So anyways, if we go to 3D object again, and we go down to terrain, it actually creates a terrain for us. This is default 500 units by 500 units. A unit is 1 meter. But anyways, let's just go ahead and move this down, and let's just center this out a little bit so the player is a bit more in the center of it. Let me just also make sure the player is above the ground. So now we have this large, it's practically a plane, but it's very, very large. And one thing you're going to want to do is save the scene before anything, so it doesn't end up crashing and you don't have to restart. Let's just call this scene 1. You can call this whatever you want, but you know, for now it's just called scene 1. So now, if we click on this terrain, we can actually see all these little properties on the side in the inspector over here. We can use these as they're very, very important to creating the terrain shape. They're sculpting tools, and painting tools, and tree painting tools, and paint details, things like that. And we also have the terrain settings. We're not going to really mess with this very much. However, as you might have noticed, there aren't any trees in the game yet. We have no trees. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and go back up to assets, and we're going to go down to import package environment. This will give us grass textures, I believe it'll give us dirt textures and trees and a few other things. So it's very, very helpful. So as you may notice, not all of these are enabled because these are already in the game, so if these were already enabled it would cause errors. But if we go down, as you can see, now we have things like the materials, and where are they? Branches, and we have prefabs somewhere. I just don't really know where those are. Oh, there we go. Yeah. So anyways, let's just go ahead and click import. This will also give us water. I forgot about that. Water is very, very important. Yeah, currently it's importing. Yeah, so sorry, I just have to check the time. It's 10 minutes. Okay. There we go. Okay, so now if we go back into the standard assets, so like if we're right here, we can just go up to where it actually is like where we are in the folder. We just tap back to standard assets. We can go over here, we notice environments is now there. So we have terrain assets, speed tree, water, and water basic. So if we go to terrain assets, we have surface textures, and this will give us things like cliff, grass, grass rock, muddy, texture for the muddy, and then sand. So if we tap on the terrain again and we go to trees, we can now click add tree. And if we go up here, we can click on this, and now we have all these trees, and we can actually use these. We can use the broadleaf, conifer, or the palm. I'm going to be using the conifer. So if we go ahead and click add, wait, conifer, sorry. I read that wrong. Conifer. So I'm also going to go ahead and pull this little bar out right here. Between panels, you can actually click and drag so they get bigger. There we go. So now I'm going to turn down the brush size to 1 so I can just place one tree at a time. And I'm just going to go ahead and add all these trees in. There we go. I'm going to kind of make like almost a little circle with my environments. There we go. That's looking good. I'm just going to go ahead and add like a few more out here. Okay, so now we have a nice amount of trees. Now if we go over to the paint, we can actually edit texture, add texture. We can actually select, type in grass, we can add grass, which is very, very cool and unique and very, very helpful. So now we can run around our game and we'll actually have trees. As you can see, the shadows are very, very intense. I'll show you guys how to change those in a bit. We have, well, yeah, we have trees now, which is very, very nice and cool. So we can also go ahead and click Control P to play and stop the game. But anyways, now I'm going to show you guys with lighting and how to use lighting. So if we go up to directional light, it actually controls the sun. We can give the sun, we can make the shadows softer, so now you may notice we can actually see the ground below them. So if it's stronger, we see nothing. We can just decrease and increase. So I'm just going to set this to like 0.5, sorry. And now we can still see the texture, but we can still see the shadow as well. We can also change things like the color. I can change this to like a very, very strong orange to give it more of a fall effect. Although I'm not going to be doing that because it makes the sun look weird. So anyways, let's just go ahead and set it back to something like this. There we go, that's looking much better. So, now we can also rotate the lighting. If we go over here to this little, this little strange cylinder object right here, we can rotate it, and as you can see, it'll change the direction of the sun. We're just going to leave this probably around there. Right there looks good. So now that we have the lighting looking good, I want to go ahead and add hills. So to add hills, we're going to go ahead and click on the terrain again, and we're going to go to this little handy button right here that has a mountain going up. This is the raise/lower terrain button. It's the sculpting tool that we generally use to sculpt the terrain. Now, unlike a lot of game engines, you don't just click on where you want to drag and then pull up. As you can see, that just kind of makes a very, very ugly, weird hill. Instead, we're going to go over here to opacity and just turn that down. So now, we can brush very, very small hills. Sorry about that. Actually, let's turn this down to like 4. There we go. That's a lot better. So now I can just add in some hills. And I want to add like a mountain back here. So to add a mountain, I'm going to first, right here with the brushes, I'm going to select this brush. And I'm going to turn the brush size up to 31 and the opacity to whatever I'd like. I'm just going to kind of sculpt upwards like this. And eventually we should have something that resembles a mountain. There we go. So, now that we have a mountain, we don't want it to be so green. So we go over here to the paint tool, add textures. If we go ahead and select, and we type in rock, wait no, not rock. If we type in cliff, it actually gives us a mountain texture that we can easily just use in the engine. So now, I'm going to go ahead and select the small brush again. I'm going to turn up the opacity and the target strength up both to 100 or 1. So now we can just paint over this, and it gives our mountain more of a mountainy look. There we go, that's looking wonderful. So, I'm quite happy with the way that this mountain looks. Looks very, very nice, unique, and can be used for, you know, the background of a really, really nice game. So now let's see how it looks in the video game itself. So behind us are the trees, and we actually have the hills over here. I can walk up these hills, walk back down. As you can see, it works quite nicely. So anyways, the mountain is quite a distance away, so if we click shift we can actually sprint, which is very, very cool. If we press space we can jump. Just general game controls. So once we get over here to the mountain, you guys are going to notice, hold up, it's looking very, very strange and triangular, as you can see. Very, very rigid, and although it looks cool from a distance, it doesn't really look very cool in-game, like this right here. We can easily change this by smoothing out the edges and such, and we can do this by leaving play mode, going back to the scene view, and going over to this here rock. If we click on the smooth height, which is just a mountain with more of a teardrop above it, we can just look at whatever surface we want and just kind of flatten it out a little bit. It just kind of dulls out sharp edges, and although I have it very, very strong right now, you can change the opacity to a bit lower setting, so it doesn't do such a dramatic effect. There we go. I'm quite liking the new and improved mountain. So now that we have the mountain, we kind of want some water, because, you know, what's life without water? So anyways, we can actually go over here to the paint height, and we're just going to set this to 10. Do not click flatten, or else that will overwrite everything you've done, which will be very, very sad and disappointing. But anyways, if we just go ahead and paint like this, as you can see, it kind of creates this effect, which looks very, very cool. And yeah, if we just go ahead and paint like a certain area like this, and then if we go to the smooth height, we can actually kind of even out these edges right here, make it a little bit less dull, a little bit more dull. Okay, now we have this small opening right here, and we can go back to terrain assets, we can go back to environment. If we click on water, and then water, and then prefabs, we have this water piece right here. Now if I click on this arrow, the transform position tool, you can actually drag this up. And we can scale this up. I'm going to scale it a little bit that way, a little bit that way. I'm going to rotate it where it fits in quite nicely. Scale it out a little bit that way, a little bit more that way. There we go. It fits in almost perfectly. So now we have water, and as you can see, it actually reflects, which is very, very unique. Now, I can just go over here, and I can kind of climb this a little bit. And there, we have water right here. And although you can't swim in it, it's great for looks, and eventually you will learn how to make it to where you can swim in it, make it look better, make the entire game and area look better. But for now, this is enough for you to learn to create your own beautiful worlds. And because I'm pretty much done with this video, I'm going to actually create a world for you guys in real time. So firstly, I'm going to drag this down. Actually, I can't. I'm going to pick up this project panel right here, and I'm going to drag it next to the scene view. And for the console, I'm going to click on these three bars, and I'm going to click Close Tab. Also for the project, I'm going to click on this and click One Column Layout, so everything's in a more organized manner. So this looks very, very stressful. However, if we just close out some of the things like characters, water, trees, environments, and standard objects, as you can see, it's standard assets. As you can see, it's very, very calm looking. So now I'm going to grab the hierarchy and put it on top of this. I do not know why, but that just glitched out. There we go. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and click on this, terrain, and I'm going to go ahead and sculpt some landscape. So let's see here. Sculpt. I'm going to add a bit of mountains right here. It's a little bit too strong. I'm going to change this down to like 15. I'm going to, add some hills here. And they're going to eventually kind of lead up to this tall mountain that I'm going to add in right here. This will really help everybody learn, design process and how you can iterate your own worlds, things like that. So let's go ahead and also select this and actually paint up what a mountain would look like. But before I do that, I'm going to also click Shift on a height to level it out like that. So I can also kind of make everything even before I start creating the actual mountain. There we go. Just like that. So, now I'm going to actually start working on the mountain itself. I'm going to kind of start around the center, build it up to about that tall, and kind of just build from there. Make everything around it go up. As you can see, it's a very, very tall and doomy looking mountain. Great for a fantasy game. We'll go ahead and smooth this out. We can make it look a little bit more polished and prettier. There we go. That looks much better. Although it still has that very, very slight rigid effect to it, which is actually pretty nice. We don't want it to be like just a tall hill or something. We just, want it to be a nice mountain. Anyway, so now we can go ahead and paint on the mountain texture, as shown here. There we go. That's looking very, very nice. So now I'm going to add a forest area. So I'm going to decrease the tree density and turn up the brush size. Kind of just, that's too many. I'm going to change it down to like 12. Still too many. I'm going to change it down to 2. Apparently 10 is the minimum. Okay. I'm just going to kind of add in a lot of trees. There we go. Now if it changes back down to 1, I can add in a few trees right here. Okay, so our environment's looking a lot more natural now. Let's go ahead and add a few more trees over here and there. Let's also actually add a tree on top of the mountain, like right here. Very, very nice looking, just one tree. Let's actually add a few on every like flatter surface, per se. There we go. Wait, no, didn't mean to do that. There we go. Okay. So now we have this cool looking mountain. Now let's see how it all looks in the game. It's looking wonderful. So let's go ahead and go up here, see how the mountain is and such. Now we're going to be developing an entire video game with this entire tutorial, so it'll really help everybody learn the development process of a game. But as for now, thank you all for watching. I hope that this tutorial has helped you, and yeah, goodbye.